Hey everybody, Seth Braun here, bringing you a message about productivity and how I plan my week for hyper productivity. And I thought about that word. Do I want to use the word hyper productivity? Do I want to use massive productivity? But I really think that my life I have hyper productivity, meaning hyper meaning the opposite of hypo. And hypo means under, hyper means over. And I guess you could say that I'm kind of in the overachiever category, and so I try to do a lot. But I'm passionate about living. I want to squeeze every ounce of life out of this precious human birth. And to do that, I've developed a system over many, many years of trial and error of how do I get the most out of my weeks. I'm going to take you through a quick snapshot of that process, something I've attempted to do before. I don't think I've done it justice, so I'm going to do it again. And the first thing I want to say is I'm at the point in my business and my life that I can't do this without an assistant. And so I want to give props to Matthew behind the camera, who's also responsible for this video getting shot well. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't shoot this video. So I'm productive because I ask for help. And that's a key component of hyperproductivity. So for the system, there's really 4 stages to this process, and I'm going to take you through each one and give you each piece, then we'll recap. The first stage is really reviewing the previous week. Now, I don't have my previous week up here. I have this week that I just did. But next week I'm going to review and just see how did I do on my commitments. These are commitments in all the roles of my life. And that's the first step. Just reviewing the previous week. In that process, I also ask myself, what did I learn? And what can I celebrate or appreciate? Now, this first step of review, asking yourself, what did I learn? What did I appreciate? Is really essential because if we're just constantly focused on the next thing and the next thing, we don't really have that felt sense of accomplishment, that felt sense of celebration or appreciation. And that completes the loop on activity. And by reviewing, you can really begin to manage things. One of the terms that gets tossed around is you can't manage what you don't measure. So this is just a really basic process of measurement. And I've defined measurable actions. I'm going to attend at my daughter's event. I'm going to print out a Course in Miracles study guide. I'm going to send a contract to one of our coaches, and these are either yes, I did it, or no, I didn't. And I review my commitments, say yes or no, and then I come up with a percentage of what I accomplished. This week I accomplished 82% of what I set out to do. And this is just helpful. In over years and years of doing this, it's helped me to get a realistic sense of what I can accomplish in a week, and it's helped to give me a place to build the muscle of integrity. And I'm not saying that I have complete integrity and I always do what I say I'm going to do, but I have a practice at least to come into relationship with myself and know how I commit and how I follow through and where I can make improvements. So that's phase 1 of a 4-phase system. I review the previous week, and it involves writing down on a piece of paper lessons learned and things appreciated, as well as the percentage of goals that I set and accomplished. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is I get out my folder. This is kind of the master folder of Seth Braun. And I've got pictures of my kids on here, some inspiring quotes. But in this folder are 2 really important documents. One of them is Qualities of the Professional from Stephen Pressfield's books Turning Pro and The War of Art. And each week I just check off one of these qualities and I write it down. You can see that I've done that right here. This week, the professional does not hesitate to ask for help. So that's pretty consistent with what we've talked about in terms of having me having help. And then I have another sheet of just kind of general spiritual qualities that support success in life. I release things easily instead of hanging on. So I just take these each week, I just contemplate or practice or bring attention to these principles. And that's just part of the long-term cultivation of character. So this is step 2, is I'm looking at my visions, my roles, kind of big overarching values, just getting, and it just takes a couple minutes, but I just touch into some of the work that I've done on retreat or at seminars, etc., Tony Robbins events, or visioning seminars, or fasting, or wherever I've been where I've had insights. I put them all in here so I can just do a quick touch in on what's important to me and reconnect. It's phase 2. Phase 3 is brainstorming. And this is an example of some brainstorming that we did. This is Matthew taking notes where I just talked out loud. He was capturing. I think this is an essential step that oftentimes gets overlooked. We want to jump right into being organized. But there's this phase of kind of coming into contact with being a little bit chaotic or disorganized or stormy. Just get ideas out, get everything out. Some may be relevant, some may be irrelevant, but you get everything out on paper. And then from here, actually this is the second part. I already started brainstorming on paper, then Matthew was cleaning it up, one phase. And then that brings us to identifying roles. This is the next step. So we've had phase 1 is getting clear on review. Phase 2 is looking at the bigger vision and values of life. Phase 3 is brainstorming. And phase 4 is to actually come up with next actions in each major role of my life. So I categorize next actions in father, marriage, spiritual growth, ministry, writing, business administration, songwriting, health, cash flow, speaker training, garden, master your target market course, book sales, marketing. This is my speaker training as an individual, booking, speeches, writing talks, and then the speaker training that we're going to develop. So these are all the things that are important to me that are going on this week. And generally I have about 17 areas that I'm focusing on every week, which I wouldn't recommend for most people. I wouldn't recommend that you choose to focus on 17 areas. I'd recommend on maybe 3 to 12 at the very most. But what I've noticed about myself is that I'm always going to do this. This is just who I am in this human birth. I focus on a lot of things. So I want to make this as strategic as possible and move things forward with next actions. Now this particular system, it's very important that you define next actions. So there aren't projects on here. There are very specific steps. Pay deposit at camp. Meet with my kids about a crowdfunding campaign to help come up with the tuition for their arts camps. So that next week when I review, I can actually measure because it's a defined step. Did I do the step or not? If it's a vague project, it says you do a crowdfunding campaign. Well, either I did it or I didn't do it. What does that mean? I need a specific step, and that's meet with my kids about this campaign. So that way I can measure it. Now I guess we could say that there's step 4B, or maybe we could call it a 5th step, and that would be scheduling. Now there's some controversy about whether you should schedule these things. David Allen in his book Getting Things Done says, no, you don't schedule, you create a running list of projects by where you're going to be at, things to do with the computer, things to do on the phone, things to do when you're out running errands, etc. That system never really worked for me. I could never get traction on it, so I'm using a system that Tony Robbins teaches in his rapid planning method, and a lot of other people do, Stephen Covey and mini productivity systems, which is I schedule these things in to the best of my ability. So right now I'm actually taking a break from this to shoot this video, but I'll take this back and just start scheduling in when I'm going to do these things into my calendar. And not everything will get scheduled in exactly, but I'll schedule in time to make calls and put everything that's call related in there. Maybe a time to do emails, anything that's email related. Things like gardening, working out, spending time with my kids, speaking, writing talks, working on books, all those will get scheduled in for the week. And that works for me. I just have more peace of mind. I know it's in, and I can just show up. Since I work for myself, nobody else is going to tell me what to do when I get to the office. If I don't schedule these things in, it's all too easy for me to show up at the office, get on Facebook, get on YouTube, just start wasting time on things that have no consequence, may be interesting. But that's the process. So to recap, first step is you're going to review your week. You're going to review what you've done. So we would be taking this, we'd be looking at a percentage of accomplishments of what I committed to. We're looking at lessons learned and accomplishments. Step 2 would be to go into this, for me, it's going into a book with vision and values, purpose, insights, overarching principles, and insights that are important to me that I just want to connect into. And for you, it just may be having a few pieces of paper or a journal or things that are important to you that you want to revisit. A list of your values, a list of your visions for a successful life, your purpose, your mission in life. Step 3 is to brainstorm. Just get everything out on paper. And then step 4 is to take that and divide it into roles. And maybe areas of focus and responsibility could be in there as well. But these are categories of your life, major categories of your life, and then setting next actions, clear next actions to move things forward in those categories. And then finally, I think we do have a 5th step, which is scheduling. And I encourage most people to do this, although it doesn't work for everybody. Take these next actions, put them into your calendar, have them scheduled so that you know they're going to get done. And that is how I plan my week. For hyper productivity, this has been Seth Braun. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, stay tuned for more valuable content. See ya.